Hello, it's me. It is almost 7 a.m. For this video, I'm going to go over more of my Japanese games. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through the rest of them, but we'll see. Alright, so I'm going to show off the PSP games. I don't really have that many, and I really could not explain that much, but this is one game I got recently. Wait a second, there we go. But yeah, E7, like I said, just trying to collect some of the East games in the series. A unopened box of Blaze Blue. I bought this at Play Asia. It was more of a testing experiment. Puyo Pop Fever 2. Dang it. Yes, if you hear that noise right now, I apologize. That's one of the two things I'm very frustrated about, even though it's almost 7 a.m. in the morning. But anyway, this is Puyo Pop Fever 2. And these are the 7 Dragon games. And one thing I might as well show now because it's the only Japanese DS game I have. But I also have 7 Dragon on the DS. This is actually the first 7 Dragon game in the series. And then there's also 7 Dragon 2020 and 2022. And there is also 7 Dragon 3, which is that's the one people are familiar with because it was the only one that was ever localized. These games I would really love to play, and you don't need a Japanese PSP. You can play it on an American. They're not region locked. And then, of course, I also bought this game. It's a Monica Magica game. Monica Magica is one of my favorite series, and I just wanted to be able to buy one of the games. I think it's like an RPG visual novel. But I think all of these games I have the manual and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much my Japanese PSP games. I don't really have a lot. But yeah, this is the 7 Dragon game. It's really weird to think because I've never heard anyone talk about this. Next up is, I guess I want to show off the Japanese PlayStation games. I actually have a lot. This game I bought not too long ago. This is actually one of the most expensive games I ever bought. The Strider 1 and 2. It basically has Strider from Genesis as well as Strider 2 for PS1. And this actually, little did I know, did come out in America. But it was just called Strider 2, I think. And it just had the first game. But of course I bought this because this cost me like, I can't remember. It was over $70, and the American version's over twice the amount. Not to mention, look at that artwork. It's pretty cool. And I actually, just like with the Rockman Mega Man games on Super Nintendo, I also got the Japanese version for a lot of these. And like, they're a little cheaper, but I got them for other reasons, just because I can play them in English for the Mega Man collections, and because the opening and outro themes are different in Japanese, I got these as like a bonus for something like that. This game, The Adventures of Tron, this is one of those games where I remember over about 10 years ago, it was like only $100 to get this, and now it's like $300, and I got this for $45. Sure, it's in Japanese, but I don't know how frustrating it would be to play it in Japanese, but because it's kind of like an RTS game, a little bit. I also have the first Persona game, because as you know, it is extremely expensive, and the Japanese version isn't, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to play it. I also have Puyo Puyo 2 on PS1, and I have played the Sega Ages Puyo Puyo 2, but this one's a little different, weirdly enough. And then of course I have Rockman X6, Rockman X5, scoot over, you scoot over too, as well as Rockman X4. I got all three of them. Again, I don't own the American versions for any of these games, just the Japanese versions. I actually did beat this game on here, the Japanese version, this. I haven't beaten these two, but it doesn't really matter because the Mega Man X collection on GameCube has the intro and outro theme of this version, which is really weird that they would do that. But yeah, this game is actually a lot of fun to play in Japanese. Boop. Okay, so what's next? Oh yeah, these games... crap, I hate that I'm missing only one more, but these games, I remember I found out about these this year, and it blows my mind that I just wasn't even aware of its existence until this year. But there are Mega Man on PlayStation 1, specifically NES Mega Man. This is Mega Man on NES 1, and this is more specific. This is called Rockman Complete Works, and the whole story was that they were releasing these games on PS1, and they released all 6 of them in 1999, which is what's interesting about 1999 for Mega Man was, I think starting in 1990 to 2008, they would make at least one Mega Man game every year, and sadly, 99 would probably be the least / most interesting year for Mega Man, because the only Mega Man games that came out in 1999 was a Rockman and Forte game on the Wonder Swan and the Mega Man Complete Works 1 through 6. I don't have the third one, but I do have all of them but 3. And if you want to know, well, what's the difference? Well, if you played the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, like GameCube, PS2, Xbox, it's kind of like that. Like, it has some of the features, but not all of it. And probably the biggest reason why I got this was specifically with Rockman Complete Works 4, 5, and 6. It has fully arranged soundtracks, because for the first 3, it just kind of used songs from the Power Fighters games, and that meant for some stages it was just the original NES, but for 4, 5, and 6 it has completely original music. But, like, for example, because Pharaoh Man's theme was remade for the Power Fighters games, you would just hear that on here, but most of the songs were originally made for the Complete Works. I also have 6, and if you're wondering, well, why doesn't this have a back? I messed up. It's like that for 1 and 6. I might almost get another copy of 1 and 6, because it bothers me that much, but who knows. And I also got this game not a long time ago, Bomberman World. I've been wanting to collect a lot of the Bomberman games because it's ridiculous how many they made in Japan. And there's plenty more Bomberman games. And that's all the PS1 Japanese games. I have a lot of them. And of course I had to buy a Japanese PlayStation, but I think it was worth it, even though a lot of these games are Mega Man. Alright, on to the next games. Okay, next up is Japanese N64 games. I don't really have a lot, but I am planning on collecting more in the future. First, I guess I'll just show up the complete boxes I've owned. I actually have the complete box for Mario Party 2, and I also have the complete box for Mario Party 3. Very colorful. And of course I have Mario Tennis, which I don't know why I bought this. It's like I can understand the other two because they're way more expensive than the American version, but with this one, the amount of money it costs me just to buy this would have been the same price just to get the cartridge only for the American version, but yeah, whatever. It's nice collecting these things. Now, here are the physical games. Let me just... And I kind of have to go... I have to note that not all these Japanese games only came out in Japan. It's just, I either bought them because they were cheaper or because it only came out in Japan. Alright, first up is Puyo Puyo Party, other known as Puyo Puyo 4. This also came on PS1. There's Puyo Puyo Sun, which is Puyo Puyo 3, also on PS1. Mario Party 1. Wonder Project J2. I actually knew about this game because of Peanut Butter Gamer almost a decade ago. He briefly had this game on one of his older videos, and ever since I saw it, I was very curious about it. It's kind of like a point-and-click visual novel. This game I would like to go into. Let me just say that I would really like to make videos on almost all these games I'm showing off. This one specifically, Japan only, Desaimon 3D. It's pretty much a, you know, like RPG Maker? Well, it's kind of like that. You can make your own music, you can make your own sprites and models, and I would like to show more of this game off because there's not really any YouTube videos you would see that goes into it. This game's a little weird because, to my knowledge, this game did come out in America, but I have the Japanese version, and what's interesting is you can actually make your own fighter, which is pretty cool. It's a fighting game. There's Custom Robo. These only came out in Japan. Custom Robo V2, this is the sequel. Came out in 2000, which is pretty late for N64, even for Japan. And here's the other Custom Robo game. It's pretty much like a 3D, like, I can't really describe it. It's basically a 3D free-moving fighting game, like free-for-all fighting game. The controls are kind of weird. Well, not really weird, but it takes time to get used to, but it's actually a lot of fun. This game, as you would see with other games, this is based off, I don't know if it's based off anything original but an anime, but I mainly bought this because it was very cheap, and with a lot of these N64 games, and even in the future, I've been through a phase where I've been wanting to collect a lot of N64 games because I find its collection to be very interesting. This is supposed to be a dungeon crawler. Is it like a dungeon crawler? I can't remember. It's similar to like the Pokemon Ranger games or some of the other games. I can't really remember the name on top of my head. But this game is actually made by the same developers who made the Pokemon Ranger games. Not Pokemon Rangers. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, not Pokemon Rangers. Mystery Dungeon. Yeah, Bomberman 2, other known as Bomberman Second Attack. I got the Japanese version because this is significantly cheaper, and I'm excited to play that one day. This one I would like to mention briefly. This is actually Pokemon Stadium 1, not the Pokemon Stadium 1 we're familiar with. No, Japan's Pokemon Stadium 1. This came out before our Pokemon Stadium 1, and Pokemon Stadium 2 over there is actually Pokemon Stadium 1 over here. And in a way, I guess you could say that this is kind of like a less content version of Pokemon Stadium 1, but there are some exclusive things to it that makes it different. And there is also Goemon. This game did come out in America, but this game was significantly cheaper. It's the 3D one. And there's actually a couple things. Give me a second. I sadly forgot to show off this other Super Famicom game, so I'll just show it now. This is actually a Puyo Puyo game. I cannot really explain it. I didn't even know it existed. And yes, that's Curry in the background. I think it's Curry. But it is a part of the Puyo Puyo series. Came out in 1995. They really made a lot of Puyo Puyo spin-off games on the Super Famicom. It's really crazy. But here is the other Goemon N64 game. This is the one that's like 2D, traditional, and this game is pretty cool. Again, also way less expensive. And they actually did make a third Goemon game that only came out in Japan on the N64. It's nowhere near as interesting, but it's interesting to note that it did only come out in Japan. Okay, that is all the games I want to show off, and that'll be it for this video. And next up, I will You know what, wait, give me a minute. You know what, no, I take it back. I want to show off pretty much the rest of the Japanese games because there's not that many left. So I'm going to show Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and I even have one Japanese Switch game. So I'm just going to go out of order, but the first one I want to show is the only one I have the box to, and that is Devil Children White. This is a part of the Shin Megami series. It's a spin-off, and they actually made other games, such as Devil Children Black and Devil Children Red, to play as different main protagonists. And again, this is one of those series where I don't think I'll ever be able to play unless if I played on emulation, but still contemplating about that. And then there are... Wait a second. Plenty of more games. There is Rockman Extreme 1. These games did come out in America. About half of the games I'm showing off. I actually do have Mega Man Extreme 1 and 2 digitally, but I wanted to own them physically, and they were just cheaper to get the Japanese versions, and I'm happy with that. I also do have